Welcome to Nasdaq TradeTalks. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. We're coming to you live from CES in Las Vegas, Nevada, and joining me for this segment, we have Tyler Saltsman. He's founder and CEO of EdgeRunner AI. We're here to discuss delivering AI solutions to meet the rigorous demands of enterprise and defense sectors. We'll also discuss a collaboration with Intel as well. It is great to have you with us, Tyler. Welcome to TradeTalks. And before we get into those topics, give us a brief background, what EdgeRunner does, where does it sit within the AI ecosystem?
Yeah, so EdgeRunner, what we're doing is we're building domain-specific AI agents. So think every occupation will have an agent that's specialized in that domain. So example, logistics will have an agent, maintenance will have its own agent, acquisitions its own. And what we're doing is we believe in a collective intelligence, many agents working together at once. I think the problem now is you have things like ChatGPT, which are really cool, but they're not solving problems because it's not specific enough. And now what we're doing is we're building that domain specific, but also culturally aware. So think with the Air Force and the Army, there's very different ways of doing business. So if I do Army logistics, someone doing logistics in the Air Force will need, it requires a different set of skills and tools and information.
Right.
And so now what we're doing is we're making AI super personalized and of course culturally aware.
Right. So when you're leading the shift in thinking about device agents, what about the security aspect behind it, right?
Yeah.
Because we understand how generative AI, it's an open model and everyone can use it, but then again, that opens you up to vulnerabilities as well. So you want to make sure that you have some privacy and security aspect to it, and you can run locally, and you have almost this reduction on relying on the cloud so much. It's almost like a redundancy where all of your eggs are not in one basket on the cloud, in other words.
That's right, no, and I think it's really important that what we can do is we can shrink these models so they can live right in your device, right, and then they can be completely air gapped from the internet.
Right. And
so what's really cool about our technology is think of it as like a ChatGPT that's specific to you and personalized to you, that never needs the internet, and that runs on any laptop. And we're excited to launch with Intel because we're optimized for Intel's latest Lunar Lake architecture, and they've become a great partner of us, along with OEMs like HP and Lenovo.
So this will be on the consumer enterprise side, this collaboration with Intel, consumer and enterprise devices.
We plan to stay laser focused with the military first, but once you can work backwards and solve for the military challenges, we believe that there's a lot of enterprise fit for this as well.
Right. Well, I mean, of course, when you think about security and running privately and efficiently, of course, you know, the military is all about efficiency. It's encouraging to hear that security is at the forefront and not necessarily an afterthought.
That's right.
I think sometimes with emerging technologies, and when you factor in Moore's law, and you know, the more technology advances, the faster it happens. You have this rush to either migrate to the cloud or to get out, whether it's internal or external facing AI solutions. And while you want to be competitive in your landscape, you don't want security and data privacy governance kind of be the afterthought.
That's right. Actually, we take it a step further. So if you look at all these open models and even closed models, so you have OpenAI's GPT-4o and 4o Mini, you have DeepSeek, you have Qwen, you have Meta's Llama, you have these open models, closed models, but the problem is you don't know the training data. So even for any open source model, if you don't know the training data, there's also a risk there because you don't know the biases. And if you don't know the biases, it's much harder to safeguard AI. So for example, the military can't use a model that's trained on a data set that might favor Hamas and be anti-Israel, which would be problematic. So now we're building our models, but we're also having these data sets with good data, and then we're also allowing our customers to see the data sets. Yeah. So now you can audit it.
So it's interesting. It sounds like the defense tech investment market is really starting to grow as being innovators and leaders in AI and other emerging technologies, while also maintaining our security, as cybersecurity has certainly evolved the global conflict landscape, right? You want to make sure that innovation is being driven and providing solutions on the national, and I would also argue state level as well.
That's right.
Are you seeing that taking place through public-private partnerships, or if you can lift the curtain back, how does that work? Like, for example, satellite control, missile defense, predictive insights. I would imagine there has to be some sort of partnership there to get access or clearance to it, for lack of a better term.
That's right, and that's why I like to think of ourselves as working backwards from the customer's problem. So what we do is we'll meet with our customer, we'll learn what is the pain point or what is the specific agent we need to build, and then our customers are great partners and they hand over IP-rich private data,
right,
and that becomes our moat because Now we have this private data that you can't scrape from the web, and the best AI has the best data.
Right.
So now you see Google, they created $1 trillion business organizing the world's public data. The best AI companies will organize the world's private data.
Yeah.
And you do that by bringing the models and the agents to the customer.
Which is interesting because when you talk about whether it's finance or healthcare, which encompasses highly sensitive data, when you think about it, the bad actors are leveraging the same types of technology, like emerging AI technologies, just like the good actors are. So it's almost like a game of 4D chess, trying to figure out mitigation and response protocols.
That's right.
And so forth. I mean, I would argue that's really high on the agenda because it's evolving so fast.
Something to think about too, like imagine you build your business around OpenAI and it's a wrapper around it. Well, what happens if someone injects harmful stuff into that model? Because it's an opaque black box, you can't see it. At least with open models, you can see what's happening. So open models, you can see the architecture, the code base, the weights. So that's much better than closed models like Anthropic and OpenAI. And then the next step forward will be the transparent open data sets to understand the biases.
So now, is this what would you call the next frontier in terms of making this technology smarter, independent, safer?
Yeah.
Governance is all in check.
It's like we've had traditional AI ML, then we've had generative AI, which isn't really useful yet, but now we have the start of AI agents and specialized agents, and I think the vision is millions of agents eventually all working together. Different agents for different purposes, and they work together synergistically. And then what they're going to do is augment humans. So now mundane tasks that I don't have to worry about, that can take care of it on the back end, and then I can focus on my actual job rather than being bogged down by things that aren't related to me.
Or being able to think more strategically, or think about more nuanced areas of research and so forth.
Right.
And again, going back to the military efficiency in always improving operations, I would imagine is a second priority.
That's right.
Right, so.
Especially if you need to make a split decision, there's this thing in the military, the right decision made too late is worse than the wrong decision made immediately, because you can always pivot.
Now if you're too late, it's not always,
Exactly, that right decision,
outcome.
Exactly. So when you have AI that's been trained on all your doctrine, that can help you mitigate risk, that understands everything about the Army and different missions.
Right.
Now I have I think of it as like the Jarvis to your Iron Man. It can give me the best idea and the best suggestion. That doesn't mean I have to listen to it, but it's going to be a great guide.
Right.
And more importantly, it's a guide based on me, my mission, who I am, and all of our private data at the enterprise.
So you're not operating kind of in this black box, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. If you don't mind me asking, you served, it sounds?
I did.
You did.
I did.
Well, thank you for your service, of course.
Thank you for your support.
How long did you serve for, or?
I was in the reserves for around 7 years.
Okay.
And I supported Operation Atlantic Resolve in Eastern Europe, helping to run Russian deterrence missions.
Right.
And I was an Army logistician, and I understand how much of a pain it is to not have technology that requires the internet, or it's not bespoke to me.
Yeah.
And
you just read my mind. The reason I was asking was what your background was. How have you seen this evolve with newer technologies being deployed?
That's right.
Pardon the pun, but I'm sure you've seen it, let's call it over the past decade, and how it's helping on missions, obviously to keep our armed services safe and so forth, but to execute in a more intelligent, data-supported way. Is that like the right way to explain
100%. So many times in the Army, I would ask somebody, why are we doing it this way? And the response would be, well, this is the Army way.
Right.
And it's like, well, why? Are we making good data-driven decisions based on empirical data? Or are we just going with our gut all the time, which sometimes it's good to go with your gut, but it's also good to have data-driven decisions.
Right.
That's standardizing knowledge. And that's the problem. If the left hand doesn't talk to the right hand in the military, you're going to have gaps in your process, which could be the difference between life and death.
Yeah, it certainly can be. Well, we appreciate your service and thank you for your insight.
Thank you.
And thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.